practices. You cannot question the man of God that is there. If you cannot question and you are just told to submit and listen, that on its own is already an abuse. So if you look at it from that perspective, you discover that all of us have been abused. And we too have abused other people. So this is not a message to point an accusing finger at other people. We should all repent. We should all get healing by repenting, by confessing to God, to ourselves, maybe to others if we need to, and by learning how to move on, and also learning how to not to wound other people. Most of us who have participated in inflicting abuse and injury and wounds on other people is because we are also listening to our so-called leaders or authority figures who tell us to do what we are doing. So we go ahead and tell people to behave in a certain way because that is what the order in this church is. If you are a part of the usher group in the church, it's most likely you have also inflicted abuse and injury on some people. If you are a part of a leadership, maybe in the choir leader, or or you are part of the people who collect money from people, that could be an abuse because that is what you were told to do, and you just did what you were told to do. The reason why I'm talking about us all being corporates is because I don't want us to begin to say the other guy is to blame, this one is to blame, that we are pointing accusing finger at other people. No, we are all to blame. So we are not looking for people to blame here. We are all guilty, and we should just learn to bring health and healing to our African churches or Pentecostal denominations, that or to church in general. That church should not be a place where people go to be damaged, because people are being damaged right now. So if you go to a church and you cannot question anything, remember that is the number one step in damage. That means your damaging has started. When you cannot question, when you cannot query, when you cannot challenge, when you cannot express your own opinion, that is already an abuse. And that is the first form of abuse that we all encounter when we go to these churches, especially when you go to even in our homes, This is not just in these Pentecostal churches, but even in our houses. A lot of our parents would not even allow us to say anything. A lot of our parents would not even allow you to question your parents, or to ask them questions, or to challenge anything or thought, or to contribute anything. So that is already an atmosphere of abuse. And the person that is being abused will also abuse another person, because that's the only thing he knows. So, for example, you notice that a son that grew up being beaten, or being that was abused, will now go ahead and abuse his own children, even though he had vowed that he will never do that, but he will still do it because that's the only model that he has been exposed to. So the problem we have in our churches in Africa is that all these pastors that are breaking out from other churches, breaking out and starting their own churches, the only thing they have been exposed to is that same abusive system. So because they have been abused and that's the only thing they know, that's the form of church they know, they come out of those churches and go ahead and begin to repeat the same thing they said they will never do. The same thing they complain about, the same thing that they complained that they didn't like, is the same thing they will begin to do. They might even be doing worse than the churches that they had left. So that's why we are talking about this openly now. But when they tell you that you cannot talk, you shouldn't talk, you shouldn't criticize, you shouldn't say anything, that in itself is an abuse. So from what I've said so far, I think you would have known and discovered that means we have an abusive culture. It means that the whole culture of our churches is abusive. It means we have an abusive culture, because if this is the case, if this is the situation that we all grow up in, if our whole culture is telling us that you cannot challenge anything, that you just have to be quiet and don't challenge a leader or an elder, it means people are hiding, or people are having to put up with wounds and damages and injuries that are destroying them, but they cannot do anything about it. They cannot even go to psychologists, because even if you don't have to talk about it or protest, but if it is in the Western world, you could at least go to a psychologist and consult and be, and have somebody listen to you and be rehabilitated.
This one not be lie, oh my country people. This have becoming an issue among the Christendom. And may God bless you again, Dr. Sunday Adelaja, for making yourself available for God to use in order to put justice about this issue of spiritual and religious abuse. And you that have also learned from this powerful message, kindly share to others to deliver and heal others from abuse.